This is the notes for 1.3, number line operations with integers. Our idea today is that we're going to start adding and subtracting integers. Integers just being whole numbers. Okay, so there's a couple methods you can do to solve this. The first one, it says, is the colored chip model. So it's the understanding of opposites. So in their example over here, I know it's black and white, so it's hard to see. Okay, but the black chip, right, these ones right here, these are black. These represent positive numbers. And then the red chips, I'm just going to show it to my mind so you can see it here. So let's say this was in color. So if these were all red, or like I'm using pink, we would use these as negative. Okay, so if it says Julia gets $6 for helping him cut the lawn, and he earns $4 for delivering paper, we can use our black and the red chips to represent this situation. So Julia asked for $6 for him, so we would count those as negatives, but then he got a positive $4 for delivering papers. So in this example, he owed $6 to Julia, but then he got positive $4 for delivering the paper. So in the end, our positives and negatives become 0. So I had a negative and a positive cancel each other out. A negative and a positive cancel each other out. So if you're using the integer chips, the idea is the red and the black together cancel each other out, leaving us with, he's in the hole, negative $2. Okay, so that's one strategy, is to use our chip model. Just go and label that. That was one strategy. Another strategy along those lines is if you don't have physical chips. I have a lot of kids that'll just do the plus and minus method. So I'm going to write this up here at the top. Is that I simply write plus or minus to myself instead of having the physical chips. So your teachers have these. You can ask them for them if you want. Or I could just say, in this example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 negatives. Just draw it out that way. And then 4 positives. In my opinion, it's a little easier to draw the minuses and the pluses than the physical chips. And then I can also stack them on top of each other and see that they're canceling each other out. Okay? So my number 2 method there was that I could physically draw pluses or minuses if you don't want to use those chips. Okay, they both mean kind of the same thing. This is a physical model, though, that you'd have to ask your teachers, and you could also have a set to take home. The third one, which is what we're going to draw here below, is the number line model. So I'm just kind of making notes here to myself, is that I'm going to go to the right for positives and to the left for negatives on my number line. So they went from negative 4 to positive 45. Okay, so they went negative 4 would be here to the left. So from 0 to 5, they went backwards 4. And then they went plus 45 in the other direction. Okay, so all 3 of those models work. It's up to you which one you'd like. Okay, so if I were you, I would either circle this or maybe put a star around it, whichever one you like the best. Would you like to use the integer chips, the plus or minus method, or the number line? Okay. All right, so let's try some examples here. It says add these integers on a number line. 2 plus 4, so from 0, I'm always starting at 0, I'm adding 2, and then I'm adding another 4. So 2 plus 4 is 6. Welcome to 7th grade math. Okay, or if you would like my method of the pluses and minuses, I would draw plus 2 and plus 4 makes plus 6. Notice how I just put them in one line. If I had positives and negatives, then they're going to cancel each other out. But both of these were going in the same direction, so we could do 2 plus 4 and get 6. Okay. In our next one, again, we're starting at 0, but I went in the hole, so I went back negative 5. And then again, I went back 3 more, getting me to negative 8. Okay, so if you want to, you can put the dot on the number line, right? We're drawing an arrow in that direction to say our answer is negative 8. Or I could also do my chip method, so I could get out 5 red chips and 3 red chips, or simply just make a picture here to yourself. I had 5 negatives and 3 negatives for altogether 8 negatives. Okay. All right, so here's where it gets a little tricky. We went plus 5, so I went to the right 5, but then I went negative, which is to the left 4. That would get me to 1. Okay, so notice how these are going in oppositions. Okay, I went plus 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But then to the left, -4. If you owe me $1 and you give me $1, plus and minus, they cancel each other out. So that leaves me with a +1. Okay, so keep in mind, to the right for positive, to the left for negative. So hopefully we can start to see that anytime it's a positive and a negative that we're putting together, they're actually going to cancel each other out. Okay, and my sign is what I'm left with that has more. So I had +5 and -4, so I had more of my positives, so that's why my final answer there in the end was positive. Okay, so when I'm adding things that have different signs, I'm actually going to subtract them because they're canceling each other out, and I'm left with the one that had a bigger sign. Okay, so let's write another example over here at the side, just to make sure we're on the right track. So let's say I had -5 and then +4. This time I would have gone to the back, so -5 and then +4. So they're canceling, but which one do I have more of this time? I had more negatives and positives, and I would have a -1. Okay, so just notice the difference there. Both of these had different signs, so they're going in opposite directions. If I have more negatives, though, my final answer is negative. If I had more positives, then my final answer there stayed positive. Okay. Last one in your notes today. It says the absolute value is the number distances away from 0 on a number line. So numbers that are the same distance from 0 have the same absolute value. So for example, -3 and 3, those are opposites, meaning they're the same distance from 0, so they both have an absolute value of 3. Okay, or think of 7. 7 is simply 7 away from 0. Just the same as -7 is 7 away from 0. Okay, so in my little bubble here, absolute value of any number is always positive. Okay, what it means is the distance from 0, and there's no such thing as having a negative distance. If I drive my car in reverse, it still counts miles towards my odometer, just like if I drove forward. Okay, if I walk backwards, my Fitbit still says steps, just the same as if I walked forward. Okay, so distance is always going to be a positive value. If I take 10 steps forward, my Fitbit says I went 10 steps. If I took 5 steps backwards, my Fitbit still records that I went 5 steps. Absolute value is distance, so it'll always be positive.